Bill Clinton presided over the incarceration of a whole generation of young black men, because we are putting young black men in jail at a rate never before seen in history, and it's because of this war on drugs. And so Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, they were all proud to do this. But now that I've been speaking out and saying that, mass incarceration is the new Jim Crow, now all of a sudden the Clintons are saying, oh, wait a minute, we're going to be back on the other side of this issue now.
It's kind of funny that if you look at conservatarians or libertarians or constitutional conservatives, whatever the person calls themselves, there's a lot of people that have a moral problem with legalizing, let's say, marijuana. But if we're reading the Constitution, it doesn't say anything about the federal government doing these things. It doesn't say anything about the federal government telling people who they can and cannot marry. It doesn't matter what we believe personally. It's what the law says. And looking at this Supreme Court ruling, it's obvious that we can't even trust the unelected judges to get the phrasing right.
Yeah, and I think the thing about drugs is that I'm the first to say that I don't think, marijuana is good for you. I don't think a lot of these drugs are good for you, and I don't recommend them. But at the same time, I think that the law needs to be fair and that we shouldn't incarcerate one race more than another. And I think the law should be fair in the sense that the penalty should be proportionate to the crime. You can kill somebody in Kentucky and be eligible for parole in 12 years, but we have people in jail for marijuana sales for 55 years, life, 20 years, 25 years. We've gone too far in all of this. And then when you add up the numbers, even though white kids and black kids use marijuana at about the same rate in national surveys, the arrest and incarceration rate is 4 times greater for black males than it is for white males.
The other side of it is you talk to most police officers. Most police officers don't want to be spending their time chasing around nonviolent, low-level offenders. They want to bring down the rapists, the murderers, the carjackers, these 2 guys who escaped from prison in New York. But politicians got obsessed with statistics and saying, look how many criminals we took off the street. But if you're talking about people who are nonviolent, and this is something that you've made very popular, because for the longest time, especially with young people, the question's always been, why are you throwing people in jail for things that are not violent?
Well, we also did one thing even worse. We added in the perverse incentive that government makes money off of taking your money, and we allow the government to take your money. You can just be driving down the street, and they say you didn't use your blinker to change lanes, and they ask you, do you have any money? And you say, yeah, I've got $1,000. I'm going to get a tooth fixed. And they say, give it to me. And you say, why? And they say, we don't have to tell you why. And they say, well, am I charged with anything? They don't even have to charge you or convict you. So instead of being innocent until proven guilty, our civil asset forfeiture laws allow them to take your money, your stuff, your car, your store, your motel, you name it. They can take it without a conviction. So you're actually guilty until you can prove yourself innocent.
That's another issue, civil asset forfeiture. Again, back to that, whatever you want to call them, libertarians, conservatarians, constitutional conservatives. That's been an issue for that crowd, your crowd, for a long time. Everybody else seems to be playing catch up on civil asset forfeiture, treating people as guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, but I think people are understanding that I've been leading some of this effort because, like I said, when we are polled against Hillary Clinton in states won by Obama, so you can tell the Democrat National Committee attacks me every day. And I hate to tell you this, but somebody from the Democrat National Committee is listening to our radio interview right now, and they're looking for ways to attack me because they see me as a threat to Hillary Clinton, because I'm going to the south side of Chicago, I'm going to the inner city in Philadelphia, I'm going to Baltimore, I'm going to Ferguson, and I'm saying, what have the Democrats done for you? What have they done to alleviate poverty? What have they done for crime? What have they done to your young men in your community? And you know what? It's starting to gain traction, and that's why we lead her in several states that Obama won.
RandPaul.com is the website. Senator Rand Paul is running for president. He is gaining steam with independent voters, young voters, I would say even some Democrat voters. They're sick of their establishment. Let me get you on this 6-3 ruling. I get it that for a lot of people here now, the subsidies, but the law said established by the state. If we offer the government the opportunity to just decide that either words can be reinterpreted or they don't exist, those of us that think long-term say, well, what else could they do? Where else could they do this with? If they could just look at the phrase established by the state and say, oh, that's not what what it says or what they meant. You can kind of do that everywhere when you have precedent.
You know, as a physician and as a senator, I think Obamacare is a disaster. I think the court has done us a disservice. This was a missed opportunity. This was a chance to revisit Obamacare, rediscuss whether or not patients should have the right to choose their doctor, whether patients should have the right to choose their insurance company, whether patients should have the right to choose less expensive insurance. And unfortunately, we're going to miss this, and it's really disappointing. You know, Justice Roberts, once again, sort of rewriting the law at the court, and I think it's really a sad day for those of us who believe in the rule of law. Scalia made a good point. He said, you know, words no longer have meaning if you're going to say that words that explicitly said that subsidies would come through state entities, really, if that doesn't mean anything, if that means that a state could really be a federal exchange, really then words have no meaning. But when words have no meaning, government becomes arbitrary. And arbitrary is really the definition of unjust and the definition of a government run amok when there is no rule of law, when government can arbitrarily do what it wants. So this is a sad day for those of us who believe in a constitution that restrains government and restrains and keeps power from accumulating.